Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday 10 Talk. I'm your host, Scott Foster. Yesterday, the 79th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yes, a day that will live in infamy. 2 hours and 2 minutes, pure hell for the thousands that survived and the 2,400 civilians and soldiers that did not. 1/3 of which on the USS Arizona. 900 of those call it their final resting place. The ceremony, held annually every year and attended by survivors, like most things this year, preempted and held virtually. Mostly because it's not safe for the survivors to travel. There's only about 1,200 left worldwide, and we lose more each year. In fact, there's only two left that survived the USS Arizona. So, on today's show, I just like to share with you a few of these names, a few of these people, their stories, and giving you an opportunity to honor, remember, and celebrate them. Let's go. So like I said, there's only about 1,200 remaining survivors from Pearl Harbor. And they weren't easy to find as I did my research for this. And I feel like they should be. They're national treasures. Now, I know some don't maybe necessarily want to be found and bothered, but there should be some kind of national registry for our heroes that survived that day. Let's meet some of them. First, we have Howard Kenton Potts. 99 years old, he was from Illinois, and he is one of the only 2 remaining survivors of USS Arizona. And at the time of the attack, he was transporting goods around the ship and for the ship, and of course, not paying any mind, going about his business, and then all hell broke loose. And of course, he was later assigned, once the attack was over, to retrieving bodies from the deeper parts of the Arizona. Durham Swanson. Again, also 99. He was actually on land at Hickam Field, one of the 2 airfields that the Japanese attacked first and foremost to destroy as many planes as they could. He was head of security at Hickam Field. He had just gotten off work, was going to mess hall and then going to sleep when he heard the planes and the bombings start to happen. Of course, he grabbed the nearest weapon he could and started shooting at anything that wasn't ours in the air. Then we have Frank Edmund, also 99. From Georgia, and he was a French horn player in the U.S. Navy Band. Frank was aboard the battleship USS Pennsylvania on this day and witnessing the attack. And because the Pennsylvania was in dry dock, it received less damage, although there were still casualties on his ship, but he had a higher vantage point than most everybody else. Being out of the water, and so he saw some of the planes were below him. In fact, one of the bombs that were dropped were less than 100 yards away from him. And he was one of the first, the first bomb he saw was one of the huge explosions that you've probably seen pictures of or video of that detonated at one of the hangars at Fort Island. Conte. Along with Howard Potts, the other remaining survivor of the USS Arizona. He had just turned 20 years old 2 months earlier. And the Arizona had just pulled into port at Pearl Harbor on December 5th, 2 days earlier. On the morning, he was near the back of the ship when the first bomb started hitting. And despite all the flames and the carnage and probably the bodies, left and right of him, he jumped into the fray with other sailors and tried to rescue his fellow sailors that were on the ship. After the attack, Mr. Conte stayed in the Navy and later became a pilot and flying part of the Black Cat bombing squadron. Many of the sailors that survived, we read stories how they picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, wiped away the trauma of that 2 hours and went right back into it and continued on through the war. Some even longer than just World War II. Mickey Ganich. On the morning of December 7th, he and friends were getting ready to play the Pearl Harbor Super Bowl. It was the USS Pennsylvania versus the USS Arizona. He was in his football uniform and everything. And he recalls how when the bombs dropped and had missed him, and somebody else had just missed by 45 feet. When the attack started, he didn't have time to go and throw on his sailor uniform or something else. He fought for those 2 hours and plus in his football uniform. Clarence Bile, 99, from Minnesota. He was a sailor on the USS St. Louis cruiser, and luckily they made it out, and they received very little damage, if any at all, so that when the attack was over, he was one of the few ships that got out of Pearl Harbor and went on the attack and tried to track down some of the Japanese fleet. But they were part of the initial hunt to go track down the Japanese fleet. And finally, we have Earl chuckler. Also 99. Although you see videos now, even recently as yesterday, and you'd think he just turned 60. He's from Minnesota, and he's a firecracker. And this gentleman can tell stories. He's an early riser. So on the morning of, he was in an airplane hangar on Ford Island, writing a letter to his mother. And after getting hit by shrapnel, he disobeyed direct orders to stay out of the fight. And instead, he went and ran and got ammo and fought back. He and his friends went after them, and when the second wave of Japanese bombers came into Fort Island, he was ready to fight. And if you listen to him talk, his biggest fear was not from getting hit by a bullet or getting hit by shrapnel or getting hit by a bomb, but was getting a court-martial because he disobeyed commanding officer's orders to not shoot back. Now, I had the pleasure of watching yesterday the last three gentlemen, in a video marking the ceremony in San Francisco. And to hear them tell their stories was absolutely amazing. And the courage that it still talks to them to talk about it today was enlightening. Chuckler talked for almost 15 minutes, and he was so fired up. I bet you after that talk, he could have gone and won a NASCAR race, or maybe even a sprint race, and it was to hear him share his story and with the passion that he did, and the other guys too. I encourage you to go find this, and I'll share with you the information next up so that you can go find it and watch the video, or even listen to it. Or you just listen to it, and it was so encouraging to hear that. and to hear him speak. These are just a few of the survivors from that fateful day. Again, there's many more. You may even know some and have heard their stories, or others that I've not shared here today. I encourage you to keep to listen to those stories, to hear them, and just to give them an opportunity to recount what happened that day. It is not something that we will want to forget anytime soon.
To let them appreciate what they have, the freedom they have today. We only have it because a lot of men have given their lives to keep it for us.
So I hope you have enjoyed this week's Tuesday 10 Talk. And I shared a little bit of history and knowledge and the faces from that day. It's incumbent upon us to never let their memories, their struggles, that sacrifice that they made, particularly the ones that did not come home, ever wash away from our history. Keep on passing it down from generation to generation, making sure they know what happened that day and the sacrifices that were made and how it shaped the history of this wonderful country. I thank you very much. I'll see you again on another Tuesday 10 Talk. Hey, look, an easy place to find all my Tweet Talks and my Tuesday 10 Talks. Thanks.